Hi, and welcome to another episode of Bespoke Architects Daily Pinup. I'm Nicole Walters, Director of Bespoke Architects, and I'm about to show you what inspiring architectural images made our Pinterest boards today. We saw a lot of beautiful textures and materials come through over the weekend in various newsletters. Stuff that's really inspiring. We can certainly see that black is very on trend still at the moment, and I'm going to talk through some of perhaps the downsides of that, as well as just celebrating some of the creativity and the fact that clients are prepared to embrace these sort of really dramatic interiors. So let's get started. The first image we've got here is in the top left, and it's this beautiful freestanding wood-burning fireplace. We can see it's a really minimalist kind of fireplace. The hearth in itself is really simple. What I really like about this particular image, though, is in fact the wood storage. I think the steel box is certainly the way to go for internal wood storage. It's the most durable and hard wearing. I like the fact that this one doesn't have a top on it, so it does make loading that wood just a little bit easier, both into that internal box and then back into the fireplace. So that's why that one has made our fireplace board today. The Stories North house has made the Pinterest board mainly to talk about the impact of choosing really dark interiors. Now, it is super dramatic and it does make for beautiful images. But as I've mentioned before, I actually did a black bathroom. I have a black bathroom. I love the idea of a black bathroom because it's really relaxing. I grew up in a very white sort of house, and so I guess I rebelled against that in a way and went for black. It's wonderful, but it does have this huge pitfall of it's really difficult to do any sort of maintenance in that bathroom. It's very slimming, but it is also particularly difficult to do anything that requires precision, whether it be makeup or maintenance. So while I love the idea of this bath and you've got the skylight and the window at the end and the shower, I do think from a user perspective that for me, that bathroom might be just a tad too dark. This is from the same project and we can see the darker vanity and the really dark materials. Now, it's been a stylist's choice not to turn on any internal lights for these images, so that is adding to the dark effect. Which is really making the materials play off, except for this underlit joinery unit. And I think that medicine cabinet, by being lit from the bottom and not for the top, really emphasizes the point around having really dark ceilings really can make a room feel smaller, and it also sucks the light out of the room unless you're using a really high gloss finish like the solid joinery unit over to the right of that image. What I do like about this bathroom is the texture. I'm loving the solid timber piece that the vanity unit is sitting on. That looks like a concrete vanity, the beautiful brass tapware, and then this more high-end glossy finish for storage next to that. But like I say, for me personally, I feel this palette is too dark. I love the wet room. We've talked about that on previous episodes where you've got your bath and your shower in one space. But again, this to me feels too dark. I love the staircase. I pinned the staircase in this project from a couple of angles. This pin was actually about that door now that I look at it. It was about the door, but it does pick up the staircase. And what I love about the staircase is the translucent glass balustrade there. There is a bit of a fluting pattern on it, which is why the bricks aren't clear. So that's why that image made the board. Here we can see that all black kitchen. It is that sort of matte black look. And when you look at it in this room, it certainly isn't bouncing light back at the camera. It is certainly sucking it out. But again, they have chosen to take these images without lights turned on. So that to me is too dark. And I say that we have passed the shortest day of the year here in Victoria, but I am very much missing the sunshine, so it could be playing on my mind. This image from the same project I also pinned because I really thought that was a unique way to do a window furnishing. So we can see the small running track up there, and it's actually a solid slider that goes over this sort of window space there. The next project is quite a contrast. This is its kitchen. It's beautiful timbers. It's very, very warm. It has this beautiful green Kit Kat tile splashback that I love with the white joinery. So it's a much lighter and much brighter kitchen when we compare the two sort of together. I really like the fact that they've kept this historic chimney. This is it from the living room side, and this is it from the kitchen side, and they've actually built some joinery in, but really expressed it all the way to the ceiling on both sides, that old chimney. It's the first time I've seen it done like that, so I really like it. And then they've gone and introduced another wood burning fire sort of on a 90-degree angle to the original. So we can see the original here celebrated, and then this half-height wall with this beautiful simple hearth in front of it for the wood fire, and then some built-in joinery. So this project offered quite a contrast to the first one. It's a very different style for a very different personality type to live in the house, but love it. I just love the material palette, and I love the way that they've kept that old chimney. It is a lot of timber though, so whether people are going to go for that, that's up to the owner, I guess, or the client, I should say. I really liked this next project. I really loved the ceiling in this. It's an exposed concrete structural ceiling. I did once propose this in a commercial application. This is one of the few times I've seen it in a residential application, and I think it looks incredible. It offers huge opportunity, as we can see in this lower right image, for those LED uplighting to go above in the top corner of those structural concrete honeycomb shape, back up lighting the ceiling, so that offers some really beautiful soft lighting. I love this climbing wall in the children's bedroom. I mean, how amazing for the occupants to have that. And again, that we see it expressed here in the, was that the alfresco? No, the kitchen. So I really like that. Again, we're playing to the black kitchen, but we can see a lighter island bench. It does have a lighter ceiling and a lighter floor. The staircase from that project, again in concrete, and really just beautiful expression of concrete with the very fine steel handrail, to the point where you don't even really seem to notice it in this image. It is more about that stair shape. I pinned the bathroom from this just to show as a counterpoint to some of the other bathrooms that we've seen. Again, it's very dark. It does have a black ceiling, but it does have that marble grain, and they've gone for a really light floor tile just to try and lighten that bathroom up. I'll let you be the judge of whether you think that's been an effective material palette. For me, I just think the ceiling is too dark. Moving on, externally, it had this amazing Core 10 sort of vertical garden wall that I really liked. And then the alfresco area that we can see here, another image of it sort of from down the street a little bit is here. And again, they've carried out that beautiful exposed concrete sort of honeycomb structural shape without roofing over it for this alfresco area. And I really like how they've done these inlay lights in those beams that we can see running down the center of that alfresco. Another project that caught my eye was the trapezoid house. What I really liked, this is an external image of it. Here was that window shroud. I really like the contrasting materials, the white designer block with the black facade. The shrouds themselves have some beautiful mesh in them, acting as sort of screens for overlooking. Internally, we can see the balustrade to that upper work level, which I really like, all the built-in joinery. I think I put this on the mezzanines and catwalk board, but I really like the sort of the laser cut plywood balustrade there. It is quite heavy, and I like the plants. But then we can see green is another big color in this house. We can see it in this joinery. It's a split level. So behind us is the kitchen, and then we're down in the living area. We can see the steps down, and then the divider between the two spaces is this built-in joinery unit where they've introduced the colors of green and black and a lot of plants, which I really like. And then here is a close-up of the kitchen. It's an L-shaped kitchen with the dining room in the middle there. We can see some beautiful daylight coming from at the end of that island bench. And on the back side, we see the built-in fridge, we see the cooker and the underbench oven. And then I'm assuming this sliding door here may in fact lead into a sort of pantry space, just given the layout of this kitchen. And then the overheads are done in a plywood, which matches the ceiling, and we see that strong line sort of delineating that circulation space in front of the windows into the living spaces that are coming off that, such as the living and the kitchen. So I thought that was just a really interesting way to use color and material. And then externally, just that alfresco with the exposed pergola is really lovely. Their powder room was really interesting with their material palette. So we can see that blockwork from the external makes an appearance internally. They've done the half height wall, which I'm always a fan of. And they've tiled that in very small Kit Kat tiles running horizontally. And then we go back to a floor tile that's sort of emulating that brickwork. And then we've got some more plywood. So it was just a really interesting material palette for a vanity. And that's why that made the board. This here image was actually just made the material board. At the very top of that image is a timber screen, and below that is the inverse of that done in concrete. So it's precast concrete with timber pieces laid in during the setting of that concrete and then removed so that you get the same effect as the timber above. So I really liked that. I thought that was a very clever idea. The mango house caught my eye. That's these two images here. This is their pool space and their backyard space, which was just lovely. Again, be mindful, in Australia we would in fact need to divide that with a pool fence just for safety. But what I really liked about this, we can see this solidness with the vertical or the pot plants above, and this is it from the story above. So they've rebaited in their bifold doors. There's enough room to stand between the bifold doors and the pots as a tiny little balcony once the doors are open. That's so funny that the lights have gone off again. I've really got to time my records better. Let me just turn it back on. For those of you playing at home, that is the Clipsal Wiser app that we use here to monitor our lights, and they're on a time schedule to remind me during this COVID period where I am the only one in the office to go home of an evening. So back to what we were talking about, the mango house. Really liked the vertical garden. Like that as a balustrade so you can sleep with the doors open and just have the beautiful air and a very solid and screened balustrade, and that looks over the pool, which I thought was lovely. This apartment, I pinned it for the choice of materials in this bathroom. We can see that there's a freestanding bath with a what looks to be polished stainless hob around it, and that's replicated over here in the vanity, and then the choice of the really big mirror and the tiles. It was just an interesting material palette. I very rarely, if ever, used stainless steel in a residential application in a bathroom. So that's why that has made the board. Another image that's made the board is this particular bathroom. It's very, very dark. There are some beautiful little skylights happening up here in amongst the thicker concrete with some roof garden over above rather. And we can just see the solid wall between the bath and the toilet. So quite a luxuriously sized bathroom with obviously a view over a void and then some beautiful natural light coming in from above. So although it's dark as a space, that's due to the wall colours, they have lightened off the ceiling and the floor, and then you get this beautiful skylight effect with the plants above coming through and making a beautiful pattern on the floor. And this is it externally. So you can see there is a lot of roof planting on that project. This little rainbow project caught my eye because this is a retractable screen. We can see the circular track running above, and it's two sides of a seat with a solid wall in between and a sort of a void in that wall so that the two people could see each other, but then they can enclose themselves completely in the screen. And I really liked that as a concept. It's very playful, and it's a great use of colour and material internally in a residential application. This music theatre, the curved shapes of that externally, and look at that staircase. It's sort of reminiscent, or it reminds me, I should say, of the Sydney Harbour Opera House and their giant sort of podium staircase, an inverse perhaps of that. Some other vanities or powder room, bathroom scenarios that caught my eye today. This one here, the Riverbend residence, I really liked their introduction of a window, and it's full height window, so we see the bench running across. And then we've got this broken up mirror here, which I'm assuming this portion here is movable, and then that and that are fixed. So that was an interesting asymmetrical vanity design from that same project. This looks like the guest powder room. So it's a mirror backlit at the end of a curved space. In it, we can see the sideways reflection of the toilet and the vanity. So I don't know as a guest how comfortable I would feel being able to see a full side-on view of myself on the toilet. But I'm loving their play of space and light and the repetition that you get looking down it, I think that's amazing. So it's obviously mirrored at both ends of that powder room. Also from that project was this particular shower. So a really playful tile on the floor, working up to that shower shelf, and then above that continuing. If that was me, obviously I wouldn't bother continuing. I would just keep the pattern going and I wouldn't break it in the middle there, because I don't see the need to put that upper wall in. You might as well have that as just one shelf. But I really liked that as a shower. And then they did some amazing sort of window seating with some built-in storage that I really liked. Their powder room, or I should say their master ensuite, I'm going to guess that is. I really liked the floor to ceiling mirror behind this floating vanity. And then we can see this beautiful suspended pendant above that. And it's obviously a Korean type bench top where the bench and the basins are molded together. So it's just a really elegant design. Also from that project, we can see the living space. Here, I'm loving that skylight above the fireplace. It is a huge statement piece of a fireplace, but just really loving the skylight above and the way that that highlights the contrasting materials of that mantle place around it. I loved the joinery in the bunk room, just the feeling. I like the divider between these two beds. Obviously, the way the blankets are tucked, it means the heads are at opposite ends to each other. We've got this circulation zone in the middle and then divided by these books at the lower level. Obviously not at the top level though, because that's where you're getting in and out of the two beds. So I just thought that was a really lovely bunk room solution. I also really liked their fabric choice and furniture choice in this little reading room space, and how the material on the chairs turns into the floor mat, and they're both different. And then we see that carried over to the couch on this side. Here is an external view. I didn't post many of this particular project. Well, I actually did when I scanned down. I just really liked the tiled material on the outside of this above the concrete, and then the way they've created that opening. We can see the little wire balustrade in between and the timber relief for that. I just thought that was a really nice break in a really minimalist material. Here is their front door, which I really liked. It's a cat, what we call a cat kitten door. So both leaves are operable, but they're different sizes. So the bigger door is the one used all the time, and then the little door is pegged open when you've got bigger pieces of furniture that you wish to take in. I also really like this drainage grate that fell in the door. So we can see that the door sits back from the window line, sort of creating that opening, and then it's been grated so that weather's not tracking in on people's shoes, which I really liked. I pinned this for the kitchen of that same house. It's just a beautiful four-sided kitchen, so we can see that there's tall cupboards over to the left. We've got a sink bench in front of us. At the rear is the cooking bench with the range hood above, and then there's another bench between the kitchen and the lounge room. So it is kind of a three-benched, one-walled kitchen, which I really like the layout of, and that's why I've included it. Then moving externally, we can see that they've got a big extended eave that runs down the property, and then their choice to put a skylight in that sort of breaks that and allows light into this recessed area I really liked. And then that is it externally from afar. So we can see the steps that we see in this image lead up, and there's two levels at that end of the property and then one taller level at this end of the property, which is why you're getting really tall ceiling heights, really large front doors at your fireplace, in your kitchen. And then you move back to your bedrooms and suddenly the ceilings are a lot lower in those sort of spaces. And if I can find it, yeah, the bunk room had a really low ceiling. So we can assume that that program is all happening at that end of the building. And just heading back up the page, because I didn't get a chance to talk about this little library that I posted. It's the top floor of a residence. It has a beautiful skylight. I really liked the curved cutout in this solid joinery piece, the use of colour, and then the open books, and then we've got the window sitting above. So if you're sitting in this chair, you should be able to just see the treetops above the books. My only criticism again would be about PowerPoints. There's one on this wall and I don't see the need for it. And then all this electrical equipment sitting underneath that joinery unit just annoys me a little bit, but that's okay. Easily fixed. And then here, just that spiral staircase. And again, it's the use of color. So we've got this really strong green and then this really light white stair acting as sort of a skylight in that space leading up. So I really liked that. Moving down the page, again, we're nearly finished. The wooden villa was one of the projects that caught my eye. Here is an aerial shot of it above. I just really liked, for me, it was the continuity of material from wall to roof. This is obviously a fairly recent photo, or they're really good on their maintenance because that timber is going to age and either grey off if they allow it, and presumably get a little bit of aging happening on the corners of that roof, but none that we can see yet. So I really liked that. And again, it had a bunk room, slightly different to the one above, only 2 sets of bunks, and they're set right back in. So I included that as well. And then finally today is this lounge suite that caught my eye. It just looks like clouds. It looks so soft. It came in a variety of colors, but I really just thought it was exquisite. And that is all the inspiration that's come in over the course of the weekend. I'll leave you with an interior shot of Bespoke Derbyshire house number 4. I will endeavour to get more photos on Pinterest of that over the coming weeks. It is a gorgeous little family home in Ocean Grove, and you can see a really beautiful material palette in that kitchen space. We had really dark island bench and base cabinets on the back wall, leading to a light grey for the overheads and the tall cupboards, and then a black mirrored splashback, which is just an incredible sort of feature of that kitchen. It allows it to be much, I was going to say brighter, but it's a black smoke mirror, I guess a lot moodier, and it does reflect a lot more and makes the space feel bigger. It is a big sort of workspace, but it makes it feel all the more bigger. And then we've got this the LED task lighting that I love to use so much, particularly when we've gone for a darker splashback and darker countertops, because it does allow better task lighting. And then we did have a custom made timber pendant light above the island bench. That is everything for today's daily pinup. I look forward to talking to you again tomorrow. Until then, take care. Bye.